Welcome back to Tech on Air, where we go behind the strategies, stories, and people driving Tech Americas. For this episode, we welcome back Carlos Flores, Business Development Director, with a new special guest, Luis Orellana, the Vice President of Staffing. Let's watch today's meaningful conversation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tech on Air. On our last episode, we talked a lot about everything related to the field service world, but today we're talking about a completely different thing. We're talking about staff augmentation. And for that, I'm joined by someone who's been at the center of it all, Luis Orellana, Vice President of Staffing here at Tech Americas. Hey, Luis. How's it going?
Pretty good, Carlos. How are you doing?
Well, thank you for being here with us and spending some time talking to not just to me, but also to our audience watching the podcast. You know, if someone would have told you almost 10 years ago that you would have been in a Tech America's podcast, that's what is that? That's crazy.
Yeah, I would have not believed it. But thank you for the invitation and everybody watching.
Awesome. So you know that last time we were talking to Andy and we talked about everything related to field services, but a lot of out there in the industry, a lot of companies know about us, everything related to field service, but there's another division of Tech Americas that is as prominent as field service, and that's staff augmentation. And I think there's it's been a few years in a row already where we've seen exponential growth on that side of the house. And I know that you're, as Vice President of Staffing, you're amongst, the person that really handles all of that world. So we would love to understand much better about what that world looks like and how do you make that happen on a regular basis.
Okay. Well, where do we want to start?
Well, first of all, let's talk about you, because I think it's important to know the person behind the scenes, So tell us about you. So what's on Luis Orellana's mind lately?
That's an interesting question. So there's a lot on my mind. There's I think that the first thing that comes to my mind is why I do what I do, and it's family, faith, and people. And so it's always making sure that the right things are being done for the right reasons. And that really sets the stage for a lot that happens in my world, since staff augmentation says we deal with a lot of staff, and we deal with a lot of people, different clients, different groups, different scenarios, that anything on any given day can happen.
Right.
And so there has to be a balance on the back end. So
yeah, because it's known by everybody that working with different people from different walks of life and with different backgrounds and different skill set levels and stuff, it takes a lot of flexibility for you to adapt to handling or working with different kinds of people. So it takes a real special skill set to do that.
Well, yeah, we have to train people. There's a lot of really the team. We have an amazing team, all around. There's a great leadership team that is in the front line. And although that a lot of the times I'm the one in the final conversations with clients, but they're in the day-to-day interactions. And so my role really is moderator at this stage now than anything, and then more strategic.
Right. And then, so whenever you start working with whenever you're exposed to a new opportunity and you're talking to a customer, and they're telling you what their needs are, what their expectations are, how do you typically handle that kind of conversation? So it's kind of like a discovery conversation, sort of speaking, right?
I have a thing. I mean, I don't really focus on the company. I focus on the person that I'm talking to.
Right.
So it could be like legal, it could be telecom, it could be whatever. But every leader, every person with a vision has a vision. And so I really focus on the man or woman I'm speaking with and try to understand them from a personal level to really see the kind of people that we're going to bring forward to interact with them. Because if I just propose people that come to work for them, then there might not be a click, or there might simply just not be a connection.
Right.
So I sort of have to play love match in a professional way when I have to understand, all the wants and needs from this person and not necessarily their company, and bring them forward with the people that we're going to be talking to not just focus on the skill set, but on the overall persona.
And this is something that I've witnessed myself. Whenever you have conversations with potential new customers, and uh, obviously from a business development perspective, we will try to provide you with as much information as possible for you to engage in that conversation. But then, at the end of the day, is that connection that you make with the person that you're talking to
Right.
really reveal what the actual needs are, and really connect with the person, so that there's a comfort level where they're like, you plant that seed, and you're like, they feel confident that we're going to be able to deliver to their expectations. So and I think the way you do it is fantastic, because I've seen it myself, and he does a really good job navigating those conversations. And what happens next, like once you have identified what the needs are, and the path is somewhat clear, uh what comes next? What's the next step of the process?
Well, I play around with it, and I treat it like a date, you
A
know,
date.
a date, yes.
This
And
guy is
so,
really a romantic person. You can tell. He's made a
yes.
couple of love related references at this point. Like,
So, the first encounter, you're just getting to know each other, right? And but you can't go to it without roses or chocolates or something that you're going to make a mark and be memorable. So once you got that down, the rest should fall into play, but you always want to set the stage for the next time. And so anticipating and really just setting everything that's going to come to pass and letting them know what's going to happen and how we are and what we do, it really eases them and lets them know that we know what we're talking about. And when we're gauging and asking them, the skill sets, the longevity, what they're looking for and how they want it, really not just pushing, an employee or a deal in,
right,
it really sets it apart, because they're probably talking to other companies and other folks, but not everybody's sitting down and asking in-depth questions or creating a relationship. They just want to close a deal next and call it a day. Here we're really building relationships, because at the end of the
exactly,
conversation, we're going to know if they have children, if what they like to eat, what they like to drink. And it's not just a business conversation, it's a
right,
really in-depth personal conversation, because it's going to be, if you were the client, it's going to be Carlos and Luis talking, and I'm going to know about you really more than you want to let me know. But by the time we're done, I'm going to remind you what I know about you, and that's going to give you a comfort level about me.
right. And that speaks to something that's been such a recurring topic when it comes to referring when we refer to Tech Americas, which is developing a true partnership and treating it as an actual partnership, not just some random relationship, or the typical business type of relationship. We're treating it as an actual partnership. And something something that you mentioned that I think is somewhat related is another very prominent topic when it comes to referring to Tech Americas, is the level of flexibility that we offer. So making changes as we go and adapting to the needs of the customer, and then fine tuning the solutions that we put together for them. I think that's a key aspect of what you and your team does on a regular basis, right?
Right. Well, we've evolved on the whole concept of staff augmentation. That's why we really don't refer to it as call center or BPO.
Exactly.
Because to us, staff augmentation is just that. We're augmenting staff in another office in another country, but we're going to do a setup that is going to replicate what you have wherever you have it. And we're going to build a culture and an ambience and a mindset with those employees, so that they are able to understand culture, business, and the individual's mindset that's hiring us, so that they have that greater click. And that's how we're able to navigate from, full blown telecom or technology teams to attorneys to different level, scenarios that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
I think there is a lot to unpack from what you just said because uh well, first of all, you have defined very clearly, I think, what really staff augmentation is. And you also mentioned that we're trying to stay away from just simply referring to it as a call center or just in the more traditional sense, sort of speaking. Which, by the way, or and some of you may have seen it in some of our marketing material and the stuff that we post in social media, that uh, we tend to refer to it as a BPO, not just necessarily a call center, because I think that terminology falls a little short
Right.
describing what we are. Uh, so I think that's very important. And also, additional to that, you also mentioned something related that we're not necessarily tied to a specific industry or a certain type of customer.
Right.
It's related to that level of flexibility that we're able to create a solution for pretty much any given customer, regardless of the industry they're coming from.
Right.
Can you tell us how do you do that? How do you make that happen? Because you would say Tech Americas, it's in the name, like technology, like Tech Americas,
Right.
but then how do you adapt a staff augmentation solution that caters to pretty much everybody?
Well, for the first 8, 9 years, we really just focus on the technology side. But then, crisis breeds opportunity.
Yes.
And in pandemic, we really had a lot of time on our hands. And so we started surfing and trying to see what else we could do that could replicate in the essence and model that we already had built in the technology world. And so when we ran into law firms and started playing around with that, it really opened up a whole new world. And then we basically redid it. And so with the original concept we had for the people and how it was staffed, it was an eye opener for the firms, and nobody had done it for them like that before.
Yeah.
And so because they had other companies in other countries that had come forth, but they really hadn't found that connection where they were understanding how it's run in their office. How do they do it in like the California office versus the Texas office versus the New York office, and to actually bring it here and do it for them, and have that level of transparency where, they have full visibility cameras, they're fully engaged with the employees. And they really were, they were surprised to see, how open we were to letting them see how we run the operation.
Tell us a little bit more about the feedback that you get from those customers that once the solution has been put in place and you have all the staffing in place, and they get to experience this is really working out, like, and just because you don't have someone physically present in front of you, or you're not seeing that person at your office, but you see stuff being done, you see stuff happening. Can you tell us a little bit more about the feedback and the stuff that customers say whenever they see us in action, pretty much?
Well, they're very impressed. They're very impressed. And a lot of our business is organic and has been referral. Obviously, through your team, we've been able to achieve, other new customers and stuff. But they really just put us, and this is a good thing, they set us aside, because now they're running their operation. It's not somebody doing something repeatedly robotically. It's somebody doing specific, something very specific and meaningful to the needs of a specific department, a specific team, somewhere in the States, Canada, Europe, and they're critical to whatever is going on. And so when they have that visibility, because like obviously we're a telecom and technology company, and so we provide them that they have full visibility of screens, cameras, everything, and they're interacting with the teams. And so they're comfort level really goes up significantly. And not like comfort, but I mean they're just their trustworthiness, it's a better word, really falls in place because they're able to not just see the work come in, but they're able to see the employees. They're able to see the ambiances that we create, and some of our offices are better than theirs, really, you know.
Yeah. And actually we're sitting today at one of our newer offices that we opened last year, because again, we continue to expand and grow, significantly. And I've heard firsthand when customers have shared with you some of the feedback, and how impressed they are with not just like the whole apparatus that we have, like the like everything that's working like a well-oiled machine, but sometimes at an individual level they're very impressed with the skill set level and the professional the level of professionalism that they discover through some of the resources that we give them access to. Let's talk about the people that do this for us, because staff augmentation wouldn't exist without them. So that's just a key aspect, if not the most important aspect of it. What can you tell us about that?
So really, it's we flip the story. So the same way we do when we're onboarding a client and try to understand the individual, now it's this client, because they're as valuable. And so what we do collectively, between admin, HR, design, just everybody, is make sure that people feel that they belong,
Right.
that, it sounds cliche, but not just part of a team, but a family, and that we're going to support them and that we're with them in the good, the bad, and the ugly. But we got a job to do. And so if we are successful doing that, there's so much that can come to pass. And so, but the people really, they understand that, they see that, but I think it's because of how we've evolved through the years and are able to better present ourselves now. And so from the get-go, they're seeing that the ones that are already here are setting the bar very high. So the ones that are coming in, really, this is how things are done.
Right.
And
It
so,
influences how they see themselves within the company.
right. And so we're able to share success stories, growth. We have built a solid relationship with all of our partners. So most of the leadership that happens within the firms, within the telecom companies, is like our people. So we got supervisors, we got managers, we got directors, that have grown into that career, into that role. And they started, in very humble tier one or
Entry
entry
level.
level roles. Yeah.
Right. And something that something that I think it's because I've heard you say this many times when you talk to customers, that we offer our solutions, our staff augmentation solutions, uh, in different flavors. That's a word that you like to use, um, because we are able to give them access to staff augmentation solutions, uh, either as a dedicated resource or a shared resource.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and help us understand what do you mean by one or the other? What's the difference between it?
Well, with the flavors part, I mean, you go to Baskin and Robbins, right? They got
Yeah.
31 flavors. So you can pick what you want. Um, Now, you're not going to have it in your hands. It's got to get built. So that's where another, quote comes in, that we do tailor to your needs.
Right.
And so with the ice cream part, you got to build. What do you want? A sundae? You want an ice cream? How do you want it? You want sprinkles? You want whipped cream? And so it's crazy how, being able to identify that talent and attracting them. Because I mean, identifying the skill set is one thing, but then actually bring them in and really being competitive, and not just being fair salary wise and, benefits, but providing a vision to the people that are coming into the company, that is a very daunting task, but one that it's not that it's easier, but they see us now. one of the greatest things that we are is consistent.
Right.
And consistency has really given us a lot because, through the years now, people have seen that, we are who we are. We're not competing with anybody. We're dominating and competing with ourselves.
Yeah.
We're, Tech Americas doesn't want to be like anybody else. We are Tech
Right.
Americas, period.
A
And that,
very, distinctive, individual type of
right.
company.
And so, with the team, what we build is like, look, we're not looking to be like anybody or any other company. We're looking to have Tech Americas be better, today than it was yesterday. And tomorrow we got to see what we improve. But for that, it's an internal development. And so that is something that, we do a lot with the folks. And so that really is the people.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that, and looking back almost 10 years ago, I don't think that, at least here in El Salvador, there was the project management role wasn't really that prominent. Uh, it was a little bit of uncharted territory for some of the other, some of our competitors here, and it wasn't until we started growing and in that world, and the staff augmentation division started, um, doing a lot of that, a lot of project management, that really took off and exploded here in this
Yeah.
market. So, to the point that
Well,
you were making, that we're not trying to copy others, we're following the lead, of some of our competitors, but also really branching out and creating our own path.
well, a lot of other companies, from that, I think the project management really kicked off about 6, 7 years ago for us. And a lot of other companies really copied what we were doing.
I
They
know.
they try to, get our flavors, but they didn't know the recipe.
Yeah.
So, that really it was interesting to see because they were trying to poach our people, but they weren't us. And so that's another thing that really sets apart our way of staff augmentation. Because we got people here that have been close to a decade.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks ask us, how do you retain them? How do you keep them? I'm like, they
Because
don't.
that's kind of like unheard of,
Right.
when it
And
comes
they're
to
like,
like 10
well,
years working for the same BPO. That's crazy.
and we're like, we're not asking them to go,
Yeah.
but we're not making them want to go, and then our responsibility is just that, we're done with the dating part. We're married. We got kids now. We got
Yeah.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, leaving and separating is not even on the table.
Right.
It's what added value, what else can you do to keep that relationship flowing on both parts, of course, and so it's a give and take thing. And as the company, we have to be very mindful to never lose sight that people want to be affirmed, they want to be recognized. And that really is not something that is done industry wise, and so we want to make sure that we treat everybody as individuals, not as a collective. And so, because everybody's unique. And so that is one of the things that really, does set us apart.
And backtracking a little bit on the topic of really setting what I would consider to be like a new trend, I guess, for lack of a better term, or defining our own path. 7 to 8 years ago, like you said, project management, but there's been a more recent development from staff augmentation, which is now legal support, and that's something that started a few years ago, that has also exploded. And similarly, some of our competitors, they've also decided to go that route as well, because it turns out that it was really successful for us.
Right.
If it's really successful for Tech Americas, then might as well we give it a try. So you've seen that happen as well on that other side of a house, right?
Well, yeah, we have competitors that they've crashed and burned, they've tried it. And I, you try to get the prime or one of the favorites at Baskin and Robbins or any ice cream thing, and you ain't got the recipe, you're gonna miss that something special.
Right.
And so one of the thing is, we're not looking to do anything anybody else is doing. We're doing our own thing. So that's, I think, the biggest part, and then the relationship and the kind of partnership we establish with, the clients or our partners, that really is what, I mean, they're a long way from, understanding how we do business.
When you talk about the partnership aspect of it, and the type of relationship that you have with some of the customers, and for those of you that don't know, we have customers that have been with us for over a decade, literally since the inception of a company,
Yeah.
and they're still with us. Something that's been very interesting to see is how some of our customers then decide to have a more up close approach to the staff augmentation services and solutions that we offer. And what I mean by that is really coming down to El Salvador and visiting themselves, meeting with them in person, exchanging different experiences, and really sharing with them directly. And I've seen you engaging with many different customers with multiple different visits that we've had. Can you tell us about why is that so important for you? Because that's something that you promote very, very actively.
Yes. I think because it could be life changing for the people that we have, because obviously we interact with different level folks at any given moment, at any given day, but it's very different when, you have probably somebody that's never left the country in El Salvador, and all of a sudden they're talking to a multimillionaire,
Executive level people, and you're like,
or
oh,
the president of a multi-billion-dollar
right.
conglomerate, and they're having a beer with them, and or coffee, or
And
having
sometimes they're even
lunch.
asking what their opinion is on something, and you're like, all of a sudden,
Right.
sharing, and like,
And
why? Who am
so
I to, like,
for that, I think that that allows, the people that we have, staff, to really engage and feel part of the overall process, and
right,
understand that it's not just you're an employee of Tech America's for, ABC partner. You're part of something, and you're an extension of that. And now you have these folks coming and treating you, and doing the whole VIP. And we also send people, we send people stateside as well. So that really has also opened up a lot of the exchange in the
right.
partnership.
Yeah, I was very not only surprised, but also very, it was very satisfying to know that the exchange is now mutual. Like, it's not just them coming down to visit, but we're also sending some of our people out there, to have like a firsthand exposure to that world, and to the stuff that our customers are doing. And you mentioned, sometimes that can be life changing for our folks here in El Salvador, but at the same time, the experience it creates for the customer, on the customer's end, is that these people that they've probably seen their names in an email signature,
Right.
all of a sudden they're real, they're in front of you, you're talking to them, you're sharing stuff with them. uh, I think that also has a very positive impact.
Well, you're breaking taboos, because a lot of the mindset for, a Latin America or Central America BPO is that you got fans in the ceiling or on the side, or just many things, right? And so when they come in and they see an office and they see how we do it, for them it's like, oh, nice, you got this view. It's a building,
Right, it's
you
it's a,
know?
it's a it's a formal professional place.
Right.
It's a full-blown office. And when you talk about, I think you alluded to the perception that sometimes the industry has about the near shore solutions, especially when it comes to staff augmentation. When you compare what we offer in this region, in El Salvador, compared to what other regions around the world are able to offer, from a BPO and staff augmentation standpoint, sometimes the difference, when you compare, the difference can be very, revealing, very stark. What can you tell us about that? What makes us so different compared to others?
It's cliche, but the right people. I think you have to have sort of like a mathematical equation to it. You have to have the right setting, the right ambience, and then the proper or correct vision. And so that, with the right people, really sets it apart. and then just it's a very collective effort. It's a very you know intentional effort from everybody to make sure that the people that we come and we bring on board are really living the vision for that particular partner. Now, there's other countries across seas and everything, but they're not able to understand the culture. They're not able to make that
Culture
click.
affinity is such an important thing.
And because El Salvador and the region here in Central America has such a diverse and unique connection to the States and Canada, then it's not maybe easier, but it makes it a lot more seamless when you're
Right.
trying to make the cultural gap a lot shorter and have everybody understand everybody.
And then, of course, another uh, elemental aspect of it, the very neutral English accent, which is something that I think a lot of companies out there, they want to bring people in and augment their headcount
Of
with
course.
people that will like you said, it's going to be a seamless transition. It's not going to be too jarring for them initially, and I think that's also a very important aspect of
Well,
it.
yeah, you have that. You have the currency. That here in El
U.S.
Salvador,
dollar.
it's dollar for dollar. There's no loss of interpretation there. And then also you have the closeness. I mean, there's a whole world of difference traveling 16, 18 hours cross seas than hopping on a plane and from
Yes,
Miami,
3 hours.
Houston,
Houston.
New York, California, you could be back and forth in a day.
Yeah.
You can't say that across seas. And, also the cultural exchange, and then one of the things you mentioned, the nativeness of the language, for the US, that really sets a huge difference, where people can have a sort of twang in their in their
Like
conversation.
you.
Right, right. Or folks from New York or California or southern, Florida. I mean, it's all found here. And so you're able to feel like you're talking to somebody from home, talking like about the States, right?
Right, right, right. So, yeah, I think this whole conversation has been very revealing in terms of the aspects that not only sets us apart as a company, but also uh the our position within the industry and the strengths that we have to really provide something, to provide a service, and to give access to companies out there to a staff augmentation service that's meaningful, that makes sense, that is um cost efficient, and that simply works, that makes sense. So I think we have established also that what really staff augmentation is really uh, extending your headcount or increasing your headcount with resources that even though they're not physically present, they're here in El Salvador, operating as if they work for you directly. Um, and then of course, the benefits of doing it through Tech Americas, because of many different things that we just mentioned. The cultural affinity, how close we are to the United States and North America in general, the nativeness of our English, and just the quality of resources that we have access to. Everything from at least from the technology side of things, CCNA certified. What other
Well,
certifications?
it's CCIE. I mean, you could just name anything and we
It's a
have
long
it,
list.
and that's something interesting to mention. I mean, education is a big thing for us.
Yeah.
There's people that have started with us that didn't have any certifications, and they've basically run up from CCNA, CCNP, and CCIE, which is the top of that side. And we've invested in people. We've sent people to
Which we're
Europe.
proud to say that
Yes.
we have access to some of the finest resources in the region, not just the
Yeah.
country, but like literally in the Central America region, and just if not whole Latin America,
Correct.
Latin America, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, even like for taking a CCIE, exam, for those that know, it's a pretty penny, but we invest in the people and we've sent them and we've funded the exam, we funded the month of training, and hotel, and sometimes family, because it's a month. So some people have asked, hey, I can't leave my wife and children, but and we show them that value, and they're still with us, and so, and that's what they aspire to. And so they don't only achieve goals themselves, but it allows us to grow as a company because they're growing.
And it's funny that you mentioned that that there's people. You might think that the people that work for us for the staff augmentation division of our company are all based out of El Salvador, but that's not really the case. We have people living in the United States. We have people in Europe, in France,
Right.
Germany, and just literally all over the place. Which is another unusual aspect. Not everybody gets to say that either.
Yeah, so at one point we had Portugal, we had Gales, UK, France, we had Sweden, we had Argentina, Colombia, El Salvador, and obviously we got Guatemala now. But it was interesting being able to build out like that. So it's, you know, we spread out. So.
Yeah, and we've saved a very important thing, not for last, but I think that it really warrants spending some time talking about our new site in Guatemala, because I know you have personally spent a lot of time and a lot of effort putting that together with the help of your team. And now you can finally say, it's there,
It's
it's
done.
fully functional, and there's people working there, and it's a beautiful office in one of the most exclusive areas in Guatemala City. What would you like for everybody who's listening to know about that project?
Well, it's done. And so it was a lot of work. There's a lot of effort and a lot of just work put in from so many people and so many folks all around the company. And it was a long time overdue. Everything that could have happened so that it didn't happen. But
Obstacles and
oh,
unforeseen things.
from political to interesting, we got some interesting stories with some of your team members,
Yes.
writing
Yeah.
back, and but I got them home safe. And so
We're gonna leave it at that.
and that says it all. But yeah, we actually have to do the finale to that, the good part of going out and getting what the site looks
Yeah.
like, because the design is all completed. But yeah, it's a new era in Tech America. So now we're regional. After Guatemala, we do have a vision, to go South America and then Europe, and just keep on expanding. So, but Guatemala, completing it on the sense of, allocating the next wave of employees, and folks that are going to become part of the Tech America's families. That's what's on the radar for the rest of the year. And so, I encourage people to come and get to know more about who we are in Guatemala, because I mean, it's Tech Americas.
Yeah.
We have people that are there and doing that cultural part there, but the essence of who we are, we've transmitted it, and it's there as well. So,
Well, thank you for getting ahead of me, because I was going to ask you about the future and what the plan and the vision is ahead, but you've already shared some of that already. Um, and just to close this out, I started off this conversation asking asking about you and your background and all of that, but after everything that we've discussed, which is pretty much like going through the entire what the experience has been for you and how you've seen this grow from where it all started, how do you feel now when you see the amount of people working for us, the many different buildings and sites that we've opened? How do you feel about where we are currently?
I think a good word is
It must be very satisfying.
it is, but proud. I think that um, seeing everybody's that's developed over the years. I think that for me, the greatest achievement is seeing people that their lives have changed, not because of the economics behind of the role, but because what we've been able to transfer to them. and how we see them interact as leaders, individuals, husbands, fathers, wives, partners, and how we see them grow. And to me, that's really important because that's our part in society.
It's a contribution.
Right. And so, you asked about me, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a person of faith, but I also want to position myself as a leader and fair. And that's what we've been able to transmit to the people that we have in all of our leadership. And so seeing them act out and be, tech Americas every day, it's really fulfilling, satisfying, but it gives a sense of pride, so really, it's like, okay, it sets the bar for me in
Yeah.
a sense, because it's like, all right, what more can I give now? And so I got to keep on preparing myself.
So two things. What would you say to I'm sure there's a lot of potential new customers and companies out there looking, watching us via LinkedIn and then the different platforms that we're going to share this through. What would you say to those companies? How would you encourage them to have a conversation with us and see what we can do for them?
First off is, when do we start?
You love saying that.
So from then on, it's, let's talk,
Yeah,
let's have a conversation, let's get to know each other. And it's really not even about selling. It's about, understanding how we, through what we know now, can help them grow.
exactly.
And so from then on, just open the conversation.
So that was one. And then number two, what would you say to those watching that are interested in joining our team and saying, I want to be one of those project managers. I want to be one of those paralegal people, like joining our team. What would you say to those people having interest in being part of this family?
Well, that's just it. If you do want to be part of something meaningful and specific, I get that from Zig Ziglar. You can either be, not meaningful and specific, or you can be meaningful and specific. And so we have that. We have that where we can um, help somebody understand their purpose, understand what their skill sets, not everybody is going to be a project manager, but that doesn't mean you're bad. That just means that we need to home into what skills you have. And because of the diversity of opportunities that we have and the opportunity to learn, in this family, you can grow into that. And so, if you do want to find not just a career, but a place to belong, develop, grow, and, go from being in a tier one role to being a director or, vice president or partner in a company, come and try it out.
Awesome. And for those of you wanting to apply, to work with us and for us, uh, just go to our social media platforms. You will see a lot of information that we're sharing all the time about how to join us. And obviously, this conversation has been very revealing, very important, for us to show a little bit more of what it takes to do what we do from a staff augmentation perspective. So we want to thank you for your time and spend with us today. And I hope this is not the last time, that we get to do this again as well.
No, it's been interesting. So
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you, Luis. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode for Tech on Air. This was a very insightful conversation. And if you're interested in knowing more about Tech Americas, follow us on the different social media platforms. As you probably know by now, Tech Americas is not just about filling out roles, and we're about results and creating meaningful partnerships. So until next time, thank you.